Oh, yay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Goddess Report. This is Shannon Port, and we are live on Friday, a little after 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And it is Friday. Today is Imbolc. So we are going to work with a lot of different energy today. We're going to work, and it's all of these topics that we'll be looking at today all correspond to each other. And so we have a really, really, really powerful live stream. In fact, it's almost the amount of energy, I'll put it that way, the amount of high frequency energy that was trying to come in and make it into the notes I was jotting down was really, really something that I haven't seen in a while. And I haven't had the feeling of being like almost over electrified in a while, but I have that feeling today. And I actually want to check in with you and see how all of you are feeling the energy of 2024 because it's definitely a different archetype. So here's where we're going to go today. We are going to look at it's Imbolc, and so we're going to look at the goddess Brigid as well, Saint Brigid and the goddess Brigid in her two archetypes. And we're also moving towards the Aquarius new moon, which will be on February 9th, which is lunar Imbolc. And so between this Friday and next Friday, there's a really, really powerful, I know this word portal is used a lot, but it really is. And also, we have on Saturday, February 10th, the Chinese Lunar New Year, which is celebrating this year the year of the wood dragon. And so on this, I put the year of the solar feminine dragon because it's the solar feminine dragon is the archetype that we work with so much in light body woman and in light body yoga. So I want to really, really tie that into all of the energy that's happening right now in Aquarius and the year of the dragon ahead. So, all right, I just want to say hello and welcome you. I actually just finished teaching a 7-day intensive. We just finished Light Body Tantra, and that also was a really powerful download. In fact, we said it felt like it really anchored something on the planet because we went deep. We went deep and we really took a look at the energies present right now on this planet, how they affect the collective. And we talked a lot about the collective woman. And we really, really looked at how this with Pluto in Aquarius now and moving forward into the age of Aquarius, how technology is going to be such a profound part of our lives and of what we have to navigate spiritually. These two things are almost the same. Light body tantra this year, we had to really, really address technology because of where we're at. The shadow, I'll just start out by saying the shadow of this energy, and then we'll jump into Imbolc, and then we'll go into the Aquarius new moon, which is so loaded. So we are going to Trish, I see you were in Light Body Tantra. It's so good to see you. It was amazing. In fact, it was so much I had to take a couple days and just like detach from it because we condensed a whole body of work into 7 days. We met, for me, it was all day, every day for 7 days. But that, just to say that recording will be available soon on Art of the Feminine, and it's really powerful. The shadow of the energy that we are approaching is really shadowy. This is the shadow of Uranus is probably one of the deepest shadows because when you take the electric energy of Uranus and you take it deep into the earth, it awakens not only the positive spiritual energy, but it awakens all of the forces. And so Right now, we have Uranus transiting the sign of Taurus and squaring all of this activity happening in Aquarius. And so we're going to talk about that in a moment. But what I want to say is that the shadow of Uranus is destabilization and derailment of the collective. This energy of Uranus brings total destabilization, and we're really starting to peek into that and go into the next level of that. It's been in Uranus has been transiting Taurus for a while, but now with Pluto entering the sign, it just took it up a notch, way up a notch, and there's a big energy. This is how it ties into Bridgid and Imbolc. And there's so many correspondences today that it was almost overwhelming to hold them all. So I'm going a little slower than usual, and I'm just going to pull them all in because it's an unbelievable language. So Taurus is really the sign of the goddess, the earth embodiment of the goddess, very connected to the goddess Brigid. And Saint Brigid is a patron saint of Ireland. And so we talk about her every year around this time, and we have some rituals with Brigid in Light Body Woman. But this is her time of year because she governs Imbolc, and she governs the awakening of the spiritual fire in the earth, which means inside of us. This is her archetypal correspondence to alchemy. So with the energy happening in Taurus, it's very connected to this Bridgid energy. And in fact, you could say, Taurus is ruled by Venus. Bridgid is a ray of Venus, is how we say it in Light Body Woman. Bridgid is a ray of Venusian power. And so Imbolc is on February 2nd. We're meeting today on this. It's a holy day, and it represents the day that Jesus was taken into the temple as the return of the light. This would be the Christian correspondence or the New Testament correspondence. It happens 40 days after Christmas. And then there's the Epiphany on the 6th of January. And then this is really the end of the Epiphany season on Imbolc. And then we move into lunar Imbolc, which happens on the Aquarius new moon. So the 40-day reference in divine feminine astrology, when we call it Sophia Astro, we correspond this 40 days at Imbolc to the 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, as well as the 40 days that Venus goes retrograde every couple of years. So there's a deep correspondence with 40 with the goddess and with Uranus, because Uranus is governed by the number 4. There's deep, deep connections here. And so on this day, 40 days after Christmas, we celebrate Bridgid as the goddess of the holy fire. Now, and I have a writing from Bridgid, which I'm going to do in just a moment. It's a shorter one, a shorter version of the goddess report. But this year, because of the energy, this is a totally different archetype. We talked about the mother and the daughter archetypes. We talked about the number 6 and the number 8, the number of Venus and the number of Saturn. We also talked about how this is the 24th year in the 21st century. And so the number 4 is highlighted. It's a Uranus year. On this day, we celebrate Bridgid as the solar fire that's buried in the earth as it prepares to be seeded around the time of spring equinox or Easter. Now, Aquarius has deep esoteric ties to Venus, Few know that Uranus is a higher octave of Venusian energy. So Uranus, that governs Aquarius, is a higher octave of Venus and her force. And Venus, as we often say, is the transmitter of the Christ force, the Christic force. She carries the holy fire water, the holy water of the mystics. Aquarius is the water bearer, the holy water bearer, and is governed by Uranus and used to be connected with Saturn. And so Uranus is the more modern ruler of Aquarius. So it also has the energy of the mother through the sign Saturn. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit from St. Brigid, and then the Aquarius new moon is so intense. Like, I think the Aquarius new moon happening next Friday on February 9th, the day before the Lunar New Year, which celebrates the year of the dragon. I think it's one of the highlights of this year of 2024. I see it in almost a subtle way as one of the most powerful new moons because it really sets the tone for 2024 after Pluto enters back into Aquarius. So Saint Brigid, this came in a few days ago, and I'll probably write this and post it online on social media as well. Saint Brigid is the I am. The holy fire of I am creates our reality. Brigid is this inner light that awakens at Imbolc, at Candlemas. Candlemas is also another name for this holy day. She is the spiritual awakening of the I am impulse that is born on solstice. So on solstice, we did the birth of that Christic force. But on this day, we represent really the stirring and the presenting of this force. And it really represents the altar of your heart. It represents the heart, the solar feminine heart flower, which we talk about, which is the archetype of the goddess report. We often post that pulsing flower. It is that altar that she begins to stir. So she's awakening the heart energy. And at this point, it's not fully, it's working almost still kind of on the inner plane, and it's getting ready to enter more fully as we progress through the path of the sun. She is the light buried in our own inner earth. This is Brigid, if you're just tuning in, the goddess Brigid. And today is her holy day, I believe, is February 1st, and Imbolc is on February 2nd. So our inner earth, the inner earth is us. We are the inner earth, and everything in the mystical teachings that takes place inside the earth is happening inside our own inner earth, our own consciousness, our field of embodiment in this projection into matter. And so she is the light that is buried in our own consciousness. She is the grail of divine love that moves everything. So another correspondence is that Valentine's Day also falls in the sign of Aquarius. Valentine's Day, that celebrates love, is, or wait, yes, Valentine's Day is another moment, another coordinate where everybody stops and focuses on love and on the heart. So linked to the year of the dragon, lunar Imbolc, and the Aquarius new moon, we also have Valentine's Day just a few days after. So it's another correspondence that's really powerful. We celebrate the power of union with the divine. Her holy day is just before Valentine's Day, where we celebrate the power of the unification with the Christ force, the divine holy fire. Her correspondence with the number 40, we just said that links her with the light in the desert, and in the desert could be seen as the barren field that needs the holy water to give birth once again. There's a deep, deep symbolism in the desert. The desert is very powerful. The rebirth of Venus after her, we talked about that, her retrograde for 40 days. The number 40 awakens another correspondence, vision. The number 40 awakens vision. Her vision thaws the earth and warms the altar in the heart. So that's what it's Candlemas. You often see the archetype. I have a lot of really beautiful visionary art that represents this so well, but you often, in fact, I'm going to post one of Brigid, of the goddess carrying the Holy Grail as this fire. But this is the warmth of the heart at Candlemas. It's the inner temple. And so let's just take a moment with the inner temple to honor it on this feast of Imbolc. The return of the light to the heart. 40 is also connected, another correspondence, to the cross. The cross. So, and you often see Brigid holding the Celtic cross. So the number 4 represents the cross, and it represents our crucifixion in matter. So in a way, our birth into matter is our crucifixion on the cross of the elements. And so all of this is held in this portal that we're in. It's a lot. And it's also connected to Pluto now entering into Aquarius. So we say now 40 is connected to Uranus, it reduces to 4. It's connected to the cross, which is governed by 4, which represents Malkuth on the tree of life. It's the actual elemental matter, elemental earth. And it's the Uranus energy. So this is where it gets really deep. And so I'm going to speed this up because it gets really, we're going to look at what Uranus does when it comes into the underworld. So Uranus, we've been talking about, is connected to the Christ force. So when at Christmas, and these are all archetypal holidays that also correspond universally to the pagan holidays and to just the cosmic path of initiation. Okay, so when this Christic force enters at Christmas, it's the beginning of that journey for all of us. And there's deep celebration that this light has come at the same time. And we talked about this at solstice. I'm just remembering in our meditation, we talked about the mother's sorrow, knowing that as she gives birth to the Logos and to the Christ force, she also knows that the birth of this babe in the manger is also the beginning of a very, very long and treacherous and painful path through this life and through the underworld. There's also a lot of joy, but it's so deep. That relationship also between mother and child. And so that's our correspondence with the cross, with the 40 days and the 40 nights in the desert, which was a deep, deep passage for the Christ in the New Testament, where he faces the deepest temptation in how to approach this journey, which is what humanity is going through right now. As a human race, we are going to be, I'm going to jump into, okay, so Uranus also rules technology, it's tech. And so it's our high technology, but it's also the literal AI and big tech and the tech industrial complex that's unfolding right now. Things are we've been saying this for a while, but it keeps accelerating. Things are getting ready to really change, and that's Uranus energy. So now moving forward from Christmas back to Imbolc, where we are today. And then we had the Epiphany, which is the solar goddess, the triple goddess, the solar triple goddess. And now we're at this Imbolc. Really take advantage of this. We've been talking a lot about prayer, but you must know how to pray in these times. You must have a technology of prayer. You must understand the word. The word is the most powerful force in the universe. The word is the highest expression of what we call the sexual dragon current, the logos. In order to navigate what is to come, with Pluto is bringing truth, but it's not the kind of truth that you decide. It's a reckoning. It's the kind of truth that is decided for you based on what you have going on. So, on an individual level, it's based on our karma. It's based on, this is the age of Aquarius with Pluto now traveling through for the next 15 to 19 years. So, or until 2043. This truth is a reckoning. It's a reconciling as well. So the reckoning brings balance through almost karma. You could say it's karmic, but the reconciling can be a co-creative endeavor. And it is on the path of initiation. That's exactly what it is. Now, taking this into another archetype, this balancing and this reconciliation, as we say, of the masculine and feminine happens in this, we'll call it in this epoch. It happens in the heart and it happens, we have to balance the astral energies. Because in this world, this is like a between world where we have access to the lower forces and the higher forces. And until we have balanced these energies, we can't really own either. We're in limbo. You might call it, it's like a purgatory. And it's almost like our spiritual body or astral body, or we talked about the resurrection body in the last, which is a much greater stage that we'll talk about later in the year. That body is atrophied and we have to build it. We have to build it with our own consciousness. Without the high frequency, high currency consciousness, we aren't able to move in the Christic worlds. We aren't privy because our consciousness can't align with them. It's all about frequency. And if you can't reach the frequency, you can't turn into that radio station. You know, when you're driving back in the old days, I don't know. I don't even know. I haven't listened to the radio in so long. I don't know if they even have, I think you have satellite radio now. But back in the day, we had to tune in. And if you couldn't, in certain areas, you just couldn't get a station. I remember road tripping on Route 66 years ago and listening to the radio back then. And there's times where you can't get anything, the desert. So where you have to find it, you have to find the spiritual level. So just taking a moment. All right. So Uranus will either take us into the depths of Hades, especially. We talked about the enforced karma and the enforced reckoning of Pluto, which opens the Hades. And Uranus is deeply connected to Hades because with Uranus in Taurus right now, Taurus is the elemental world and it activates we're seeing it, the lowest impulses, the inversion impulses, and the perversion impulses. So the key here, and then we're going to go right into the new moon. And then that's a different frequency will open up. It's another stream. So the key here, I want to finish on this because it's very important. Why prayer? Because prayer is a great neutralizer. And this energy of Brigid, which is the bride, B-R-I, Brigid, B-R-I, bride. Brigid is the holy bride of the Christ force. When we tune into her, and the most creative act, she's pure creativity, but the holiest of holy acts is prayer, because prayer is communication with the divine, and there's nothing greater that we can do in our embodiment than to communicate with our creator, our source, our mother and father, and beyond. It's a privilege to be able to pray, really pray. And so that's why prayer has been a big theme all year. We really started activating it at a new level at the Virgo new moon. It was the prophecies of the Divine Mother where we really talked about prayer. And I even brought in some old traditional prayers from the patriarchal religions, which are really the goddess religion disguised. So let's just take a moment with prayer and then we'll move into the new moon. How we pray. So another correspondence, it's going, they're just coming and coming. Aquarius on the esoteric level, which is the level we work with in divine feminine astrology, is meditation. The deep, deep power of Aquarius is meditation. What that's telling us is that when we meditate, Uranus as the Christ force works for us. It becomes the holy logos power in the heart, which is connected, as we've been talking a lot about the number 8. And we talked about how this is an 888 year at Lionsgate, and we're going to do a really beautiful ceremony, which is the restoration of the feminine temple. But that 8 is connected to this moment in time. So you can see time and space are speaking to us always. The future is always calling to us, and the past is always knowing what we're doing. Even though this moment, and you hear it sometimes called 0 point or the now, that's the access of I am. But I am is also connected to the far off future timelines as well as the past. What you do now matters, comes into matter. We're talking right now to the ceremony we're going to do on Lionsgate. It can already feel the waves traveling into the future from this moment, as well as we're communicating. I want to give this as an example. With some of the past videos we did, there's a link to this moment in time from those videos, because our intention creates a whole matrix that's beyond space and time, and yet time is holy because we need time for our awakening. Last video, we talked about how we have time so that there's a moment between our thought and its manifestation, because if we were to just manifest everything we think about now, we'd be an absolute disaster. Not only would it be overwhelming, but we would get more dense. We we might think, oh, if I could manifest everything I think, I'd be enlightened. But in this condition, it's not true. If we manifest everything we think, we'd be more feet under than we can even imagine, because the quality of our thoughts is often on a spectrum, and we have too many thoughts that are still working in bondage to the lower elemental world. Okay, I'm going to start to close this out. There's one little last piece. The main thing to know, though, is how this all connects and how Bridgid is the holy bride of the Christ force is coming into, she's entering the stage at this time. Lunar Imbolc, she will also be very present, the Aquarius new moon and the year of the dragon, kicking off at the Chinese New Year on the 10th, on the 10th. And so it's a dynamic time, and then Valentine's Day, which we usually do something special on Valentine's Day, and we usually connect it to Magdalene. So we regenerate this vision, Brigid. Brigid is our strength, deep connection to the number 8. And her light is the exalted fire in matter. She is our power to rise from the underworld in our holy body of love. So the body of love is a teaching we work deeply with for in Light Body Woman especially. And I often talk about that around Valentine's Day, because this is about, we talked about the atrophied body. The first layer that has to come into fruition to give us to begin to give us our, I almost said legs, but it's really our wings, is to elevate, which are also connected to Uranus. The layer is first is love. Love is the power that we must come by. There's one moment I just want to say something about love. Love is the power that thaws matter and quickens it. It makes the molecules and the atoms quicken. True, when you have a moment of love, you know how you can be doing something, and then it happens to me sometimes with in social media, because I'll look at social media and I'll feel that frequency, and then I'll see something that really moves me, and everything shifts instantly. When you have those moments, that's the thaw, and that's what Bridget is. She's the light that thaws and that begins to stir, the first real anchoring of divine love on this planet Earth. We call that the body of love because it's the balancing of the masculine and feminine on the astral plane, on the higher astral. It gives us access to the higher astral. Until humanity is mostly doing the dance on the lower astral plane, which is kind of like the labyrinth. And we talk a lot about the dark side of the moon, but it's not always dark. It's just that our feelings and emotions are tinged with the corruptible substance. We don't even start to touch the incorruptible until we move into the higher astral. And we begin to work with the solar feminine energy. This is Brigid. So that reconciling can also be the lower and higher astral, the sun and the moon. We talked a lot about the lunar and solar forces. This is how we begin to activate the body of love, which is the beginning of many things. The one who is baptized in her fire carries the Holy Spirit that awakens souls to their self, their I am. Activating a humble service of the heart that flows with wisdom and knowledge, with a capital K, of the divine kingdom. Bridget is also, this is really beautiful, the revision. This is really powerful. Okay, one last little note on this. I love this word because we talked about the destabilization and the derailment, but this is a better way to look at. Bridget is the revision. She's the power to revision that comes with forgiveness of sins, that sets our holy fire free to create a new world. This is the last thing I really want to say. Until this time, we are bound to our past mistakes. That's that connection to the past. But upon forgiving, this is why the Christ Yeshua, Jesus, taught forgiveness and brought a new dispensation of forgiveness. When I forgive, the fire begins to activate and I can feel love again. And forgiveness is an esoteric code. At the beginning of 2023, I think we did 3 videos talking about the power of forgiveness, or the law of forgiveness, if you want to go back. It is a code. It was the high code for that energy that was brought through from the Christ, because that being really said, look, I will teach you how to forgive sins. Without forgiveness, you will never leave the bondage that you find yourselves in now. Never. You have to understand. And the old temple, the old tradition, that the older tradition that he was born through, was a little bit more of an eye for an eye. And of course, the teaching of Christ was turn the other cheek. So it went from an eye for an eye to turn the other cheek, which is oftentimes misunderstood. That's another deep, deep code. But forgiveness is going to be necessary in order to keep your field clean and to move about in this era. You have to understand prayer and forgiveness, and they're often the same thing. When I enter into that sacred union of my mind and my heart, which is prayer, we say prayer is the intercourse of the mind with the heart. When I bow my head, my mind into my heart, I surrender. And as I surrender, the holy flame of Brigid starts to warm my heart. And she converts the energy of Uranus into a frequency of the logos that we can work with. Because in its true form, as we are right now, it's way too much super consciousness. Our bodies in this dimension can't really grasp it or embody it. We get hits of it, and trust me, when it comes, it cracks you open and it throws you off your path. That's the derailment we're talking about, and the destabilization, because humanity getting hit with this kind of energy is not prepared at all to understand what that means. And so it brings the earth changes, and it brings the confusion of consciousness, and even the war impulse and the revolution impulse. But in prayer, if you understand prayer, you use the energy of Aquarius to create the new world, and you understand that you have to forgive as you go. You file the wisdom. Your higher self is decoding things and making notes, but in this frequency, it's your higher self holding it for you. And the egoic mind, it can be present, but it's really the higher mind that is. Uranus works beyond our comprehension. That's the Uranian energy that is computing as our true, we call the technology of the goddess, which is a higher form of technology than what is even being rolled out right now, truly. And we don't want to lose our connection with this. Last line, she is revision that comes with forgiveness of sins that sets our holy fire. Until this time, we were bound to our past mistakes, but with the advent of the birth of the Christic force, we have been shown how to forgive and how to live in this new energetic field that is in preparation for all that is to come. And also just meditation is absolutely necessary. So prayer can be more active. Meditation can be more listening and deep silence. I work with them both equally and find them both equally important. The prayer for me is either can be a chanting, working with the power of the word, or my own personal. It's important to include your own personal words to a personal God. That's also what the Christ Force brought in, a personal God that linked us to the whole cosmos. Before there were other personal gods. They were rays of the God Force, and it got confused, and human beings mistook some of the practices of prayer and turned them into what would be called idolatry. And we won't go much into that now, but what the prayer of forgiveness brought us into the path of the sun, which is, you hear people put down monotheism, but what monotheism really is, it means the universal force of I am, which is the one permeating energy another connection with all of these archetypes that runs through everything. And when we make contact with it, it will show us how it can be run through its different streams. But in times of in moments of deep prayer, we're connecting with the one force of I am. Okay, let's look at, I'm trying to think. God, Bridget also, as the bride, rules art and poetry. She's a ray of Venus. She rules the hearth, and we're talking, this is the hearth, the heart. This is the holy altar. And this is where, when we work with the diamond mudra and we say, I am, this is where we're giving birth from into our field. This is that space within of Brigid, the sacred fire. And poetry, really, I want to say one thing about poetry. Poetry is really the language of the goddess because it's not literal. Often in anything in esoteric or anything from the mysteries, we have to listen with a different set of ears. And we have to understand the energy of the words and sometimes go way past the literal meaning. So that is what poetry is. Poetry is the command of the forces of nature through the spoken word when it's united with the heart. And so if we haven't been initiated into that kind of union or reading, poetry will just, to the uninitiated, but that is just the uninitiated, even in love, could seem like words. What's the big deal? Kind of pretty, kind of nice. But to the one who understands the logos, the words that we get through Rumi or Hafez and many of the transcendental poets, even Emerson or Thoreau, are Walt Whitman, or Emily Dickinson, even ones that are closer to us in time. These poets were communing with these forces of nature, and the word becomes their vehicle, and they're almost like their sacred text to hold those as ancient. Even you can think of mantras are the same thing. They hold the energy of the forces of nature. And we work very deeply in this work with mantra and with the understanding of the power of that word, that force. So Brigid will balance the hearth fire. All right, let's look at the Aquarius new moon. The Aquarius new moon, we just said the shadow of Uranus is destabilization and derailment of the collective. And that's, we're at the beginning of seeing that. Oh God, I'm wondering if I can even say anything about what's happening, because it's a big year. 2024 is also, it's a year of a lot of politics and a lot of change. There, when you look into the field, there's so many different potentials that could happen. It's not set in stone. The main thing to understand is that the collective consciousness can and will determine what we do, but there will be a lot of destabilization. So if you consider yourself a light worker, this is your time. This is your time. If you want to connect with the invisible plane of the high level of teachers and masters of this time, it's about that frequency. When you find the frequency, they can work through you, and you can be invited into higher and higher levels. You can be privy, and it's nothing more than service. So it's definitely not about the ego. The service gets more demanding, way more demanding. All right, from every direction at once. This is important because this is Uranus. The derailment will come from every direction at once. It's not just one place. It's coming from everywhere. It's like it's like trying to pound down the popping up things, and you pop it up here, it comes here. You pound it down here, it pops up there. That is what this energy is about. And it says total collapse. This is where Pluto comes in to reconcile our power. So it is through this derailment and destabilization that we have a choice. Do we succumb to this or do we go deeper? Do we meditate? Do we find out who we really are? Do we meet Bridgid in her temple and stand with her around that holy flame? This is what we're being called to do with the Aquarius energy. The energy of the Aquarius, the Aquarian energy and the Taurus energy are so intense right now. And I'll tell you why that's important, because they're both fixed signs. They're both holy heavenly creatures. They're part of the four heavenly creatures. And so Taurus has this energy of the bull and it's Venus, but the bull can knock everything over in the temple, or the bull can act, well, it's the divine mother and, you know, in the ancient wisdom, and it's Venus. And then Aquarius holds the energy of the divine human, the, you know, you could say even the Adam Kadmon. It's the divine activated elevated human being or consciousness in its height. So but the square is activating the lower plane of this. So think the Taurus energy like a bull in a china shop, and think, you know, the human race, because it's really the, so Aquarius is the group, and so that human is the collective consciousness. So I'm going to point out these squares, which are very, very pronounced, especially at this new moon. Okay, the new moon squares Uranus for one, and Mercury in Aquarius will be squaring Jupiter. Both of these are a tight orb of 1 degree. The new moon is at 20 degrees of Aquarius, and it's being hit by the rays of Uranus at, I think Uranus will be at 19 Taurus. It's tight. This new moon is really activating the new year, because with Pluto in Aquarius and with the 2024 archetypes deeply connected to Aquarius, this new moon square to Uranus, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, is like fire. It's big. And Mercury, which is the mind, and Mercury, so Uranus is the higher mind. Mercury is also a lower octave of Uranus. It's a different correspondence, but it's Mercury governs our mind and our word. So Uranus governs our higher mind and the logos. So with Mercury square, and Jupiter is in Taurus, Mercury and Jupiter in that hard square, meaning it's going to be right on. Then this could be also a massive communication, because Mercury governs the communication on the planet, but Mercury also governs technology. So this will be like a preliminary energy of Jupiter conjunct Uranus later this year. So let me just put that in plain English. So Mercury, the lower octave of Uranus in Aquarius, this Aquarian energy squaring Jupiter in Taurus. This is a preview of the energy of Jupiter when it reaches Uranus in Taurus. It is a dynamic awakening of mind energy. Now the Mercury could just be that some big reveals happen, and this day, every day is a big reveal in the times we're living in. There's not a day that I see where something, that's the Uranus energy. It's just coming from every which direction. I mean, you can't even between, like, I read the papers and I look at, sometimes I go on social media and I'm like, it's unreal. The human race, first of all, as we've talked about it, is overloaded with all of this stuff to the point where we tune out and block it out because we kind of have to. This is the energy of Taurus and Aquarius, very highlighted. They square each other. It's important to remember they're fixed signs and they square each other. I have a lot of Taurus energy. When any of my planets square planets in Aquarius, it is the most energetic and electric energy I experience of any other planetary action in my field. When my planets are squaring anything in Aquarius, and I'm a Taurus, it's because Taurus is the earth, and so when that electric energy is hitting it, it's like, whoa, it's just like on a cellular level, you're being rewritten. It's rewriting your code. That's what's happening right now. Okay. Also, Pluto is the fire, and Pluto is bringing the Hades fire, the reckoning into Aquarius. And we have the technology combining with Earth. This is why technology is really taking leaps right now. Uranus in Taurus is making that happen, but now Pluto as well. Now, because it's karmic also, it brings Pluto is power. And so it's not only our power, but it's power used against. So, Aquarius being the human race, Pluto will also represent different forms of top-down power enforcing. This is the derailment and the destabilization. So, not to take that into the far out, um, let's just take one moment with that. The wisdom. So Pluto often is also connected with wisdom, the deep arcane wisdom. So that wisdom will be reclaimed, but it has to be reclaimed with integrity. The Uranus energy doesn't let you off the hook. It's not one where you can play games. You're either in it for good or you're being used by it. So that's why we said last time we're going to walk step by step by step. This energy requires discernment and it requires awareness because you're being initiated with a higher form of power. Okay. Also, so the new moon is supercharged with energy by squaring Uranus, and Uranus is the ruler of the new moon. So it's a double whammy. This is also the year of the dragon. Now, it's the year of the wood dragon, and wood is very connected with Taurus. So this is another Taurus correspondence. Taurus is the earth and trees. And so the year of the wood dragon is going to also really heighten the Venusian Taurus energy and that spirit in nature, because the dragon energy is just fire by its very nature. It's divine fire. That's that correspondence. And the dragon in the solar dragon goddess that we work with also is also very connected to Uranus because it's a Holy Spirit Christified energy. And it is so super luminal, and it's the breath and it's ruach. It's like it's the most beautiful energy. And by just even anchoring that archetype in, you start to understand the beauty of the goddess. And that's why we call it the dragon goddess. It's really what the goddess is. And we connect her with the heart, what we call the heart flower in the goddess report. She's the solar feminine flower that rebirths the Sophia logos in our heart. And this is what this work is about. This is what divine feminine astrology is about, and the goddess report. This is the age of Aquarius and our connection with Venus. So we will also have, I'm just going to look at what else. So Chiron is also conjunct the North Node. So Chiron, and also you think of Ophiuchus, and you think of Chiron and the energy of the serpentine, the serpentine energy. This is connect the North Node in Aries. The North Node in Aries is everything we're seeing in the world right now, the abundance of war. This is the North Node in Aries, which is also connected to the number 4. So Chiron at the North Node, I'm thinking of one of you who I know just had all your planets square to that in Light Body Tantra. Chiron connect the North Node at the new moon is also saying it's time to gain the wisdom from our wound. and use the wisdom from our past mistakes. That's that forgiveness, that Christic energy. This is what we're being called to do with this, with that. Chiron at the North Node, it's Chiron's at 16 and it's another tower energy. So it's really, really awakening. Aries at 17, the North Node. Okay, Jupiter at Taurus in 8, Uranus at 19. We talked about that. Venus and Mars are in Capricorn. They're about 6 degrees apart, but it's strong Capricorn energy. And Mars is at 27 degrees. So it's also only 4 degrees from 27, 28, 29 from Pluto. Mars is conjunct Pluto. So at the new moon, that's also big. This new moon is so beautiful. And I'm telling you, this new moon is the energy of 2024. So let me see if there's anything else I wrote about it. And then Taurus and Aquarius. Okay. We talked about the shadow side. Okay. This is what I want to say. All right. We'll just shift for a moment. Tuning in with I am before me, behind me. I am at my left. I am at my right. I am above me. I am below me. I am unto me. All right, this is what I want to say. So the shadow side of Uranus in Taurus, and I've barely touched on this because it's so big over the past year or two. The Uranus energy in Taurus is activating the deep fallen sexual force, and it really stirs that energy and converts super consciousness into a more compulsive. It's our compulsive drives, and it's compulsion. When it comes, Uranus becomes, it inverts into a kind of compulsion, but it's linked to that drive, that carnal drive. So it's also perversions. It's inversions and perversions. So we're deep in this energy now, and things are being unleashed that we haven't ever even really seen before. Just in our modern day human consciousness, it's everywhere. That is the Uranus energy when it goes deep into Taurus, and when we can't integrate it or assimilate it, it drives those carnal drives. And Taurus is connected to the carnal. Taurus is sensuality and sexuality. Across from Taurus is Scorpio, which is about power through that force. But in Taurus, it's about craving, what we crave and how we use our sensuality. So it's a little less structured in Taurus. That's where we come and we're kind of like where we can get addiction. Whereas in Scorpio also can get that energy, but Scorpio is more about power, dominating, dominatrix. It's about that. But Taurus is more about the understanding of our appetites. And so with Uranus there, the appetites, the materialistic drive is huge. And that's why the world has become more materialistic, not less, much more materialistic. I mean, that's what's on social media nonstop. There's something I want to say, and want to say this with love, but and I try to keep really open, just in I follow a little of this and a little of that because I don't want to shut down. We were talking about this in Light Body Tantra. I don't want to push the world out and try to be holier than thou or more spiritual than thou. I want to be able to see with open eyes what's happening in the world and what people who might be peers or fellow artists are tuning into. But there's something, a pattern I've noticed more than ever before. And that is that even, with some of the people I follow who I deeply appreciate, and I'm talking about more people in the kind of entertainment world, but there is a constant, constant selling, product placement, constant. So there might be someone you really like and you tune into them emotionally, but every time they're in your feed, there's a new something. And it's acting upon humanity because when you have a lot of power and influence, there's a responsibility that comes with that. Now, if you are an influencer or you have a big platform and reach a lot of people and you have a message and you serve in the world, you do some charity work or some, philanthropical work, which everyone seems to be in on these days. But if it's just, putting those images out and the heart really isn't there, or it's part of building this materialistic view. Again, Taurus is about enjoying the physical world and having a certain amount of nice things, but understanding that's not your value. Taurus is our values. We have all this Taurus of values squaring Uranus of technology. So the last thing I want to say about that is if you're an actor or an athlete, I'm just using a couple of the archetypal, and it's or an influencer or like someone, a teacher, it is fine for you to put your what you have created from your heart to offer it to your audience or to the people who follow you. That is part of this world. It's part of the age of Aquarius. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's gotten to the point where when one person has like a new, like huge product every day, and that is making millions upon millions with each post, and it's siphoning the energy of the people watching it. Again, there's no judgment here, but something to understand. At a certain point, you start to feel used because you really are being used. Like, and then you think of all the people in the world that are living at a certain level and they're giving all their creative force to looking at this. There's a saying that when you want to aspire to something, yes, you look at people that have what you would like to have. There's nothing wrong with that. If someone's successful, nice. Follow some successful people that you admire. That's great. But there's an energetic awareness of knowing what's what and understanding that if there's a lot of people that whose energy are kind of losing it over this constant consuming. And I mean, I see products, I'm just gonna say this, that don't even have anything to do. I mean, it's such a far stretch, but it is about money. Again, there's nothing wrong with making money, but the disparity between, and we talked about this, the haves and the have-nots is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's a small group rising very easily. It's very, very easy in this climate and with these technologies to rise. So as we come into this new day and age, there are many people who have plans to try to balance out some things. But I will tell you right now, the wealth you want to have your wealth in order. If you have a little, or if you're trying to get your finances in order, wonderful. That's very responsible. But make sure that that's balanced with true spiritual connection and prayer, because your spiritual connection is the most valuable thing you have. I'm not talking about just kind of the woo woo, I say that just kind of meaning like it's fluffy. I'm talking about your real practice, because when all goes down, and because even on in times of initiation, I can't tell you how many times everything can be stripped like that, gone. But when you know it, in fact, it will be, because as we'll say the word initiate, but you have to verify at certain points and show that, and as it says sometimes in scriptures, the thing that's most valuable sometimes is taken as a test. Now, we never wish for that or never try to project that, but meaning the things you think you value that aren't that valuable. Sometimes we're tested so that we have to understand they're not as valuable as we thought. So all this is saying a lot, but this is deeply connected to the Taurus and values and technology and how it's used. And what I would say for what's happening on social media is just be aware of it, because we talked about this in Light Body Tantra, but there's this space right in through here that gets activated. It's between the solar plexus and the heart energy, or the lower heart, and you can feel it. You become very in tune with your own physical energetic body, that when you feel that energy coming, you know it's being pulled out of you. Use it as a moment to say, thank you. I'm going to turn this off now, and I'm going to take 5 minutes and just go into that space of either prayer or meditation. Very important this day and age. So it stirs that force. We talked about it. We went just a little into it. It also brings revolution, change. Pluto and Aquarius, it's going to bring revolution and change. We know that. Taurus and Aquarius, the new moon in 204 is, this is what it's about. It's really showing us the power of these two signs squaring each other. And Uranus is in Taurus for a couple more years. Yeah, and so we're going to see a lot of change happen in this time. Okay, we talked about the square between the two fixed signs. That means it's like, as this is a this is a kind of square that goes deep. Fixed signs are like fixed, and they kind of correspond to the earth itself, and so it's like no budging, going, it's the bull and the bull of all things going head to head with it. This is what's happening. Okay, squares Jupiter and Taurus. So Taurus is the goddess. She is the earth embodiment. I put of Sophia as Magdalene. We often say that Taurus really represents sort of Magdalene as the earth herself. Okay, so there's a lot coming this year. We have some big things coming during Taurus season, and um we're going to be seeing a lot of action. In fact, the energy of 2024 has already shown my own personal life. In fact, that could be why I was feeling all this electric energy coming on today, is moving. It's moving at light speed right now. And I do plan to come on at least one more time in February before I get to my new location. I've talked about how I'm going through a relocation. A lot is happening. I want to come on. We always do something around Valentine's Day, so we'll definitely be coming on either before or right after. This is really for Valentine's Day, what we're talking about today with Brigid and Imbolc and the dragon goddess, and Candlemas and the heart. So I'm sending you blessings for all of these things right now. Um, yeah, we have a lot coming up. So I'm just gonna take, I didn't really look down. The flow today kept me like forward. So I'm gonna take a peek down and say, I didn't send this out at all. So whoever saw it, saw it. Oh, I'm glad to see some people on. Please give the video a like. And if you subscribe, make sure to get notifications. And I'm always curious if you get them, if I don't send it out on social media. But yeah, make sure to subscribe. I'm thinking right now on the schedule, I have us written in every other Friday, which kind of falls on the first and third Friday for right now, leading up to our bigger events this year. So I'm going to take a peek down. It's so good to see so many artists online today. Wow, this is amazing. So nice to see you, Dorothy and Trish and Lisa and Arbacron and Sonia and Trish. It's quiet today. If anyone wants to put in, if are there people on? There are some people on today. Let me think if there's anything else I want to say. So it's 4:19. Okay, we're at about an hour. Um, I'm curious how you're processing the new energy of 2024. It's been kind of dreary where I am. I'm on the East Coast. It's been kind of heavy energy. I feel a lot of heavy energy in the collective, but I also feel that almost like Uranus energy that can be a little neurotic. I feel it vibrating pretty strong. Love your fellow humans. Channel, I see a lot of artists channel your energy for art. This is where we're at right now. That's the best use of this Aquarian energy. And get humble and bow and go into moments of prayer. Get down on your knees, light a candle, grab your beads, whatever beads you have, and pray as a privileged initiate on this path at this time on our Mother Earth. And so thank you everyone. Oh, you did? Oh, I'm glad you got the notification. Okay. All right. I will see you if you come back and leave comments. I'll see you in the comments section. And I will see you again 2 Fridays from today. And so we just take a moment to bow with gratitude and sending our prayers all around our Mother Earth, also to all those who are in war zones right now. There's a lot happening, a lot of suffering, and we send the light of this stream and this broadcast to those places with deep prayers for the resurrection of our human race into the divine humanity that we truly are. And so until we meet again, namaste. I am, I know I am. Om Shanti.